And so many organizers don't even give this a second thought. It's just win count. But there's other options, and depending on your player base, I think some are actually better. And actually, the reason they exist is because of a personal experience that I had when I was playing one of my first tournaments. Every time I got paired with a 4.0 player, and there was just a couple there, but I could literally feel their disdain when they got paired with me. Then a few weeks later, I managed to convince pretty much the same group of players to give it another try, almost the exact same event with almost the exact same people, but with one small change. And I'm telling you, the vibe completely changed. Hi, my name is Ben. I'm the founder and builder of Pickled.App, the best app for pickleball nobody's ever heard of. Today we're going to be diving into some key considerations when you're planning your event. But just a quick sidebar before we begin. So I actually had every intention of posting this video like 2.5 weeks ago, and I was really looking forward to finally getting into some actual substance. But then, of course, the app broke. Now, I won't bore you with all the technical details, but basically Android devices started struggling. And by struggling, I mean it was just dog slow. Turns out there's a platform level limitation I wasn't aware of. And it basically causes performance issues when there's multiple processes firing at the same time, like when the app first fires up and it's trying to figure out the locations you're associated with, etc. So long story short, it took several days to isolate, to fix it, test it, roll it back out, verify that everything was good. The good news is it's fixed, and it's faster across all devices, not just Android. The bad news? It completely derailed my timeline, set me back 2.5 weeks, but such is the life of a founder builder. So this is actually a great example of what I just talked about in a recent business update. Sort of the ever-shifting priorities, and what I kind of liken to the houses on fire analogy that illustrates the chaos of building something from the ground up. There's actually a link to that below in the description if you'd be interested in checking it out. So as I mentioned before, we're planning on filming some local events here around the KC area. But I'm still sorting out some logistics like venues, somebody to help with filming, making sure players are fine with being on camera, and some other key details. So in the meantime, I thought I would just walk you through our basic approach to running events. Now, I'm going to say up front, a lot of this is probably going to seem obvious, but the truth is I've seen way too many events where the obvious is overlooked. So let's continue building on the foundation I sort of started on in the last episode, which is what I think is the second most important thing to have in mind. And that is to define your goal as an organizer. Before you start thinking about things like venues, scoring methods, formats, or any other logistics, you've got to ask yourself, why am I running this event? Is this a fundraiser? Maybe just for bragging rights with your local crew? Or is it like a high-stakes winner-take-all showdown for your whole area? Are you trying to make a little money in the process? Or like us, is it more just about building a brand in your community? Whatever the reason, your goals will shape everything. The tone, the structure, the venue, the way you handle signups, and ultimately, the way the players are going to experience your event. So for example, if your focus is on a fun and social connection, then an ultra-competitive structure with strict duper enforcement probably isn't the right vibe for your event. But if you're targeting serious players, then yeah, you're going to want increased structure. They're going to expect that. Personally, I lean more towards what I would call socially biased events. Fun, welcoming, but still highly competitive. The best events are ones that you would actually want to participate in yourself. And for me personally, you may disagree, but I think the world's already full of duper-rated team brackets. So once you decide on your why, I think one of the most underrated decisions that people make and kind of overlook when they're organizing an event is which scoring method they're going to use, like what determines a win. And it has a huge impact on not only the logistics behind the event, but the overall mood or the tone of your event, the vibe. And so many organizers don't even give this a second thought. It's just win count. Of course, that's what we're going to use. But there's other options, and depending on your player base, I think some are actually better. You really have to think about each method changes how the individual player approaches the game. Pickled.App currently offers 4 scoring methods. The default is win count because that's what most people are familiar with, but we also offer win percent, point count, and average points. And there's a circumstance when each of those is actually the best scoring method to apply. We're going to talk about that. And actually the reason they exist is because of a personal experience that I had when I was playing one of my first tournaments. A bit of a funny story. Early on when I think it might have been my first round-robin tournament I ever played in. And the organizer used win count because, most people don't even give it a second thought. However, in this case, the skill levels of the people that were actually there were a bit wide, like 3.25 to 4.0 range. And I was definitely on the lower end of that. If I'm being honest, I still am. And here's what happened. Every time I got paired with a 4.0 player, and there was just a couple there, but I could literally feel their disdain when they got paired with me. Every shot that I missed, every little mistake I made was just really amplified. And all that mattered to them was getting that win. and I was standing in their way. But honestly, it was understandable given the format. They were being competitive and they wanted to win. I mean, this was a competition. But here's the thing. So even though I managed to keep most games competitive score-wise, I mean, I was hanging in there, that didn't matter. This wasn't horseshoes and close did not count. Now, not everybody was that intense, but I'm telling you, every time the organizer would call out like a 3.75 plus player to be paired with me, you could kind of see the wind go out of their sails. And I get it. I just don't think the organizer really thought about what their goal was for that day. And it was a rec level event, so, maybe they just kind of glanced over it. But even in small events, I think it's important to think, what is my goal today with this particular crowd of people? Being me, I actually spoke up at the end of the tournament and just said, I wonder what you would think about using an alternate scoring method instead of win count. And of course, I was just dismissed out of hand. Like, what are you talking about? But in my mind, I just couldn't let it go. I'm like, I really think just a small adjustment of scoring method would really change the whole experience for not only myself, the lower end player, but also for the higher end players. So that's when I got to work into the app and started adding different scoring methods. Then a few weeks later, I managed to convince pretty much the same group of players to give it another try, almost the exact same event with almost the exact same people, but with one small change. And that change was to use point count instead of win count as the scoring method. And I'm telling you, the vibe completely changed. I mean, I still sucked, but as long as I kept it competitive, which usually I do, it didn't hurt my teammate quite as much. So each point now mattered, not as much as the win, but almost as much as the win itself. And so close games actually still meant something. And that was a huge difference. To be honest, I don't even know how I placed that day. It was probably near the bottom. But from my perspective, it was mission accomplished anyways, because I had come away with a much deeper understanding of kind of the psychology behind your scoring system, how greatly the scoring method actually impacts the way players think about the game. And I guess it seems obvious, but not very many people think about that. It's just they go with win count, period. So yeah, I think point count is actually the better option for more rec level or social events, which is where I tend to live, because you actually get credit for every single point you make. So like I mentioned, Pickled.App offers 4 different scoring methods, and that's win count, point count, average points, and win percent. Win count is the most familiar and very easy to explain, and I think it still works great when you have a player base that's pretty close in terms of their skill levels. And also, you have to remember that everybody has to play the same number of matches or games. That said, I truly believe that point count is actually the best all-around scoring system, and people should be using that more in their rec level events. Because in those events, you tend to have people that are a little bit wider in skills, and you want every game to matter. That's just my opinion. If you disagree, please feel free to comment below. So then we've got average points and win percent. And these are ideal for leagues or looser formats where you can't necessarily make sure that everybody's going to play the exact same number of games. I mean, they might be close, but maybe they might be off by a couple. Also worth noting, within Pickled.App, each scoring method has its own tiebreaker logic. And usually it's at least 3 levels deep. So for example, point count, I think it's win count is the secondary, and then point differential is the tertiary. I said tertiary. Point is, just remember that your scoring method isn't just a setting in the game. It actually is a signal. It tells your players what you value most in your event. Is it wins, raw effort, consistency, resiliency? So choose wisely based on the experience that you're trying to create. Okay, quick sidebar. If this is helping you think about how you're going to run your events, please click the subscribe button. So as you might know, this is a new channel. And according to YouTube, you just don't matter unless you have 1,000 subs. Please subscribe and help us matter. Now, there's a bunch of other very important considerations you should probably make during the define your goal stage of event planning. And I could easily spend like an entire episode on each one, and maybe someday I will. But for now, I just want to touch on a few of them kind of rapid fire style. So things like revenue and costs, entry fees, venue selection, and prizes, they're all deeply connected to your overall goal. If your event is just a fun round robin with a dozen or so of your friends, maybe you're fine using the old community gym with a warped wooden floor and masking tape for lines. Totally works for casual play. But if you're hosting a fundraiser or a competitive bracket where people are paying to play, that same gym probably won't cut it. Your venue signals the tone of your event just as much as the format or the prize pool. Now, like I said before, I happen to be in the Kansas City area, and here you've got a wide range of options, but I think in most cities this is pretty much the same. So you've got public parks, which are more first come, first serve. You've got schools, converted rec centers. Then there's higher end spots like Genesis Health Clubs, Lifetime Fitness. And our local favorites here in KC is actually Chicken and Pickle and Serve. I've got no affiliation with any of these, I'm just rattling off ideas. But in my personal opinion, the latter are definitely what I would consider top tier for not only rec level, but highly competitive events. Alright, so much for rapid fire, but that's just venue selection. The same goal-based considerations can be applied to prizes, like what's at stake. Are you giving out medals, gift cards, a rubber chicken? It matters. Then you have fees. Are you just trying to cover your costs? Are you trying to raise money? Are you trying to make money? Or do you want to keep it totally free? Then there's player capacity. You're going to cap it at 16 or 32, 64 players. That definitely impacts the format, how much court time you need. Then there's schedule type. Is this going to be a one-day event? Like ours typically are going to happen start to finish in 2.5 hours. But there's other events that are spread over multiple days or multiple weekends even. Then there's weather. Do you have a backup plan if this is going to be an outdoor event? Then there's volunteers and support staff. I'm telling you from personal experience, even the smallest event, it helps to have somebody there to answer questions, help log scores, potentially settle disputes, especially if you're also playing. And I do have kind of an opinion on whether or not you should actually play in your own events or not, but that's for another time. Then there's communication tools. How are players going to get updates? Pickled.App makes this super easy. But if you're not using the app, then how are you going to handle this? Are you going to rely on email, text messages, smoke signals? I mean, you've got to have a plan. Quick sidebar, if you think any of these deserve a full breakdown or you're interested in one of the topics more than others, please make a comment below. I'd definitely be interested and the channel could use the interaction. So if you find this useful, I've actually put all these together in kind of a quick checklist PDF, link below in the description, that you can use as your own reference. And again, we'll probably go into some of these a little bit deeper in future episodes. But if you feel I missed something or maybe you need to elaborate a little bit more on one of the topics, please, again, feel free to comment below. But for now, just remember, every decision you make should support your event's core purpose. Seems obvious. Sometimes it's overlooked. All right, well, thanks for sticking with me through that part. Now we're going to move over to kind of what I call the shameless app plug segment. And for today's shameless app plug, I'm going to answer a question I get all the time. And that is something to the effect of, hey, I really like your app, but my group's not using it. Nobody's signed up here locally. How do you suggest that I get them to start using it? It's actually pretty easy. So what's worked best for me and actually all of our top ambassadors was just to say something like, hey, I found this new app. I'd like to give it a try. So I'm going to run a round robin next week for 8 people or 12 or whatever and send them a link. And then the first X number of people that sign up are in. If you don't sign up in the app, then you're not in. And that's really it. No pressure. So if people want to give it a try, they'll give it a try. And if not, then no harm. Then you run your round robin, log the scores, and sort of let the app speak for itself. Once they see how easy it is, how it eliminates the chaos of group texts and emails and spreadsheets, they may start asking, hey, can we start using this for regular signups? Or can we use this for our club? And the answer is, of course, yes. It's a free app. And if you want a quick walkthrough of how to create an event or run a round robin, don't forget we have our Smash Course series. The link will be at the end or below. There'll be a link. So if you made it this far, you're either learning something or you're just strangely invested. Either way, I'm going to make one last plea. Please subscribe. We really need subscriptions right now. All right, well, thanks again for watching and sticking out to the very end. So what are you still doing here? Go play pickleball.